I didn't choose to be an artist, really. Wouldn't have even called myself an artist for years and years and years and years. And yet, when I really think about it, I think that that was so true of me from like very, very young. All children are artists, and what is it that we do that squeezes that out of them? I feel lucky that maybe that wasn't squeezed out of me, although for a while it was. If you're raised within a family where you have a strong spiritual heritage that's ripe with stories, that you start learning to think in images, and those kind of metaphorical ways give some energy to your own life and way of seeing the world. And for my father, who was raised in South Dakota, the changing of the seasons and the connection to the ground was particularly strong. The strong sense of social justice that came forward in my family, I think, came from my father both living in close proximity to the Native American world, and then when we were in the Washington, D.C. area with the civil rights, and then the big, huge protests for the Vietnam War, and how all those things collided when I would have been in junior high and high school with the assassination of the Kennedys and Dr. Martin Luther King. I started making sculptures in the household that I lived in. Someone said that reminds me of the work of the Bread and Puppet Theater, because they were big sculptures. I didn't even know how to make them. And I didn't know about Bread and Puppet, but suddenly there was puppet theater that was starting in the basement of Walker Church called the Powderhorn Puppet Theater. I went, I started doing it, and I never stopped until very recently, when of course I still haven't stopped. I think it's really just from being in this world. And I have the two words, maybe curiosity and awe. You're in awe of the wonders of this world, but it's also like, well then, why is there so much awfulness? Why is there so much pain? Why is there so much self-hatred? Why? And the awe is really just about continuing to open my heart more and more and more to what is possible and the awesomeness of this gift of this world that I'm lucky enough to live in at this time and in this place. I was raised with the complete version of the Christmas story, and meaning the parts that are sometimes left out, which is the slaughter of the innocents. And the sense of all of the different elements of the story, the people who are seeking, the woman who accepts this into her body, the man who is the one who makes it all possible by nurturing and taking care of, the people who come and provide and welcome you into a community, the people who warn you to go a different way, the angels who are both there calling to everyone to say, look, behold, open your eyes to this amazingness of a child being born. The child, and what does a child bring to us? When I started working at the puppet theater then, and the holiday of Christmas is coming, and we started early on telling versions of the Christmas story with different things focused on, like what is a gift? What is this story? What are the dangerous pieces of this story? What is it that we're being called for to bring forward into a community? Making the creche for the Mayflower Church, and just how much I loved doing that, and how much synergy with the congregation of people who came forward to help with that. It was kind of within a context of many people starting to recognize in a stronger way, and even using the iconography of the Christmas story to speak into the refugee situations and the people standing at the border. And there were many examples of art that started flooding through the internet about that. And at the same time, I'm making these little figures. A little creche, taking the newspaper, all the stories of the day, the incredible violence, as well as the just stories of people who are still, like working to make this world a good place. Love, crushing these papers together, making the figures, paper mache, paper mache, paper mache. And how wonderful to be able to bring this story forward for another group of people who, of course, wanted it, but maybe deepening it, continuing to really recognize the universality of this story. As I'm making the various figures, I'm always thinking, okay, now I'm making one of the wise men, okay, which I started calling the seekers. I think about kneeling. I think about listening. Do I listen to the voices of angels? Do I listen to the voices of warning? Do I see a star and ask that star to guide me? Do I forget? Do I close the doors? How far will I travel? What steps do I take? When I'm making Mary, of course I'm thinking about my own self as a mother. I'm thinking about my mother, my grandmother. I'm thinking about all the mothers. I'm thinking about nursing. I wanted her to nourish this child, to be able to hold this child. I wanted this baby to be held, not just laid in a manger and adored. And of course the neighbors who come with bowls of food, and the children who are there. And I wanted Mary to have a girlfriend, okay? Usually in the scene there's a lot of men, right? So I made a woman who was like a doula. And she ended up in the Mayflower version. She's actually the angel on top. For me, working with communities of people to help discover what is trying to be being born, what is coming forth as inspiration, as nutrition, is what's important.